Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The 100, as well as the latest episode of The Outpost. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I had to say about this week's episode of The 100, you can skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of The Outpost. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of The 100. A great episode, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of crazy stuff went down this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, one crew walks into the trap. Notice who the first person they ended up picking up. I love that they make it a point to be like, oh, Ethan, Jaha will be so proud to you. Bam. It's like, which is kind of a gut punch too, because it's like, oh man, that kind of sucks that you were there. I mean, because I was wondering what they were going to do with Ethan, because they kind of set that whole thing up with Jaha, but it never really kind of turned into anything. Like, I mean, aside from him, like, being one of the dudes that challenged Maddie, that was, like, who was practicing with Maddie, that was about it. But I guess that was also, I mean, I assumed, because it looked like he was the first one to get hit, so I assumed he did not, unless they were able to carry him away. I don't know, which is kind of sad. Like, I mean, once again, that's just showing you the situation of, like, no one's safe in this situation, kid or not. Like, if you're part of one crew, you're the enemy and ended up getting wiped out, you know? Then there's like the back and forth between Bellamy and Octavia. Octavia's like, "No, this is your fault, Bellamy, for your bad idea." He's like, "What are you talking about? We wouldn't even be in this situation if you hadn't burnt the food and literally forced your people to march. That this was literally their only option. You're the reason this happened anyway. We wouldn't even be in this damn gorge in the first place if you hadn't forced people to march, you know, get taken away their choice." And it's interesting because I totally missed this last episode, was the fact is that Cain said, "I'm not going to let the devil in the garden," obviously kind of playing at the whole like Garden of Eden type of thing. But also the fact is, I like I said, I completely missed that line, and it caught me like rewatching Big. I was like, oh wow, really? That she's the devil in your eyes. Which, to be fair, so I guess that cemented it too. Like, who's the devil and who's a monster? McCreary's the monster, but she's the devil. It's like, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, at the very least with Octavia, maybe you could get someone to talk to her, but then again, it's like, nah, she's had people trying to talk to her this entire time, and she got cemented in who she was. I think, I don't know, man. It's hard to say, especially because, like, at least in Kane's mind, like, it does. I was wondering, I was like, oh, do him and Dioza have a plan? Technically, they did. Like, for him, this is still like the least bad option. He wasn't wanting all of one crew to get wiped out. He wanted most of them to kind of get wiped out. This way, they're forced to surrender themselves, but McCreary doesn't want their surrender. He wants them completely wiped out. But it's like, even Dioza and Kane tried to tell him, like, there are people there, you could utilize their skills to help the human race go forward. But it's like, no, you're willing to literally wipe them all out. And it's just like, just because McCreary thinks, like, why accept their surrender? I guess because that could be potential trouble later on, their surrender. They could try and fight back at some point, but it's like, why not just go ahead and wipe them all out now while we have the strategy and the means to don't let our guard down, just wipe them all out? I mean, maybe it's just that mentality that McCreary just has naturally. I don't know. But, you know, it weighs heavy on Kane, too, because he ends up talking to Abby about it. And Abby's like, we'll get back to our humanity one day. Like, do what we need to do to survive, and then we'll get back to our humanity one day. You said that. But now even Kane doesn't 100% believe that anymore. That's the sad thing about it, that he doesn't believe that. And that is the thing, like, can you even get your humanity back after doing what he did? Like, a lot of those people he knew, he spent years with those people, and he helped kill a lot of them, you know? And that's the thing, because for him, it's like that's what this entire, when you actually break this entire series down, that's all the series has ever been. The least of bad choices. It's kind of like, you kind of have no option. Like I said, it was a lose-lose situation no matter what side you chose, because Octavia, if she had won, she would have just kept being Blood Reina Octavia in the garden, I mean, in the Shallow Valley, and it's like, you know, like I said, that would have just gotten things, I don't know. It's hard to say. You can't predict how things would have played out. Maybe things would be different with Octavia if he had sided with her. But in his mind, McCreary being the monster he is, it's much less than the devil that Octavia is, which is kind of crazy to think about it. I mean, once again, it's a situation where it's like, you guys kind of created this situation. You sent the 100 down here to, you know, it's like, oh yeah, there's a chance stuff would go down right on Earth. But at the same time, you were sending these kids to their death. So it's kind of like, who can you really judge like that the circumstances made her into who she is, because she needed to become the person she needed to make all the crews and tries to come together. And it's sad that like it turned into this, it went this far, but it's like you guys helped create this monster, and I feel like it's such a messed up thing that you're not taking responsibility that it kind of sprawled out. Because even Indra's like, I led you down this path and I didn't, like, if I shouldered some of that weight instead of everyone putting it on you alone, then maybe we wouldn't be where we are right now. But maybe they wouldn't have survived the dark year. It's hard to say, man. It's just like, because to me, and when this whole grand scheme of things, not one person is at fault. It took all these things coming together, building upon each other, and escalating and turning into the situation we're currently in. Hell, Clark is going to such extremes to prevent Maddie to even get caught up in all this. She literally put a shot collar around her. It's like, this is like your daughter, and you're willing to go to that extreme. But it's like, she talked to her mom. It's like, hell, her mom even said herself, it's like, to prevent you from getting floated, I sent 100 kids down to the surface of the earth. So a mother's willing to do whatever it takes to give their child the best chance. And for like Clark, this was the best chance, you know? And then just so much twisting and turning. Like, the fact of the matter is, you have Bellamy and Octavia still alive in the gorge, but the fact of the matter is, like, no one is willing to go back. Like, because no one wants to follow Blood Rainer. They're not gonna die just to get Blood Rainer back. So it's kind of like, no. But Nathan's the only one that's like, no, we can do it. We can still win. He's the only one still following her, I guess. The ones who probably survived are mainly probably people like, well, because it seemed like they're the crew that they're the group that kind of was in a part of one crew that followed, like, more so Maddie, the flame break, like, you know, their commander. So I think they probably kind of stayed back, is what like Nate was kind of getting on them about. Like, you guys weren't kind of really there. So they were probably the first ones to kind of pull back, because they were never really like too keen on following Blood Rainer anyway. So also, it turns out they're low on medical supplies and stuff. Like, now everyone knows, because Echo and the group ended up discovering Kane and Diosa's betrayal, letting Monty know, and Monty's letting them know that Bellamy and Octavia might still be out there. It's just, man. We do see Abby find one pill, but she breaks it open because she's not willing to take those steps back anymore. And, you know, because Clark was there to kind of convince her to, she even brought up something interesting too, because like Clark was like, was that overdose an accident? And even her, she can't be like, I don't know. I don't know whether I was so craving the pills or whether I legitimately wanted to die for everything that's happened. I mean, it's hard to, like, you know, which is very heartbreaking that she doesn't even know whether that was like whether that was an accident or on purpose. Then there's the whole Vincent situation. I guess on some level, because he's like, oh, you know, look at all the people you killed. That your body count racks up way higher than mine, Kane. The fact of the matter is, he's telling Kane to give in to the demon inside of him, much like he has, as well as Abby has. He's like, did you know that Abby's the one that kind of told me to kind of supply her with pills? It usually takes a tragedy. So I was thinking, so like, he has a thing for Abby, but for Abby to be with him and need him is what he wants. But to need him, she needs to stay broken, and that means on pills. So he tries to kill Kane for that purpose, because it's like, yeah, this tragedy will send her spiraling and make her take pills again, and she'll kind of be broken and she'll need me. And I think that's what he wants. He likes Abby kind of broken, because at least that way she needs him, and maybe there's more of a potential for them, I guess. It's like, she relies on me, and as long as you're around Kane, she won't rely on me as much, you know? Which, he stabs Kane repeatedly and then bites his neck. But luckily, Abby shows up in time and fries him. But then you had the whole situation with Kane, like, being like, it's not your fault. I know you told Octavia to break me, but you didn't kill those people. Octavia did. It was Octavia. And passes out or dies. It's hard to say what went down there. I'm assuming he passes out, but it could be that was him saying, like, oh, Kane is dead. Or on the verge of dying, you know, so maybe he just kind of blacked out from the shock. Either way, that in my mind immediately goes, yeah, I know I'm skipping around a bit, but it's like, yeah, that kind of in my mind thinks Abby's going to try, if not kill Octavia in the season finale. I just got that inkling because he cemented that in her head because he's like, I forgive you. It was Octavia. And then I think maybe in her mind, Abby's going to be like, no, I need to kill Octavia. This is all her fault. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for Octavia. Once again, it's like you kind of created the beast and it's kind of fucked up not to kind of take a little responsibility for that. I mean, that's why like Abby went to Peels anyway. So I guess you could make like she did kind of take that all upon herself. But now it's like wanting to put all that, like that's what I'm getting feeling like, oh, she's gonna try and kill Octavia, if not kill Octavia in the next episode. But we'll see. Then there's the whole situation of, oh man, Bellamy, Gaia, Indra, and Octavia are stuck there. Gaia's she's like ready to give up, but then like Bellamy's like, no, if you're not going to live for yourself, live for Maddie. That's still, you can't, what kind of flame keeper are you just leaving your 12-year-old commander kind of defend for themselves? So it's kind of like, no, you need to stick around for her because Indra's not willing to leave Gaia, but Gaia's like, you need to go, and to make sure you do that, you have to let me go. Because one crew isn't coming for us, it's broken, and that's really kicks in for Octavia because their whole hope was that one crew would come, and now she's realizing, like, after hearing Gaia talk, it's like, one crew is broken, I broke it. Because she forced them. If she had found a different way to handle things, maybe one crew would be loyal to her. If she had handled the situation differently, but her way of being Blood and Reina, like what kept them alive all those years, ultimately broke one crew because they didn't need to be who they were inside of that bunker anymore. But she couldn't break free of who she was. Like for her, she had a chance to break free, but she doubled down on it because it's like, this is who she was and she couldn't escape that anymore. Because even like Octavia, like even Gaia was like, why are you helping me? Why do you want me to live? The fact of the matter is you literally wanted us in a pit a week ago. And she's like, well, yeah, but maybe next week I'll put you back. But then Bellamy's like, yeah, because you are the flame keeper. You'll be the one that most like, she wants you alive so you can convince one crew to follow her again. So it's like, okay, so even then Octavia has her ulterior motives. Then at the same time, the whole Clark situation, which man, oh man, did Clark's betrayal not stop. Not only did you shot caller her Maddie, you also turn on the radio when the others are trying to break out because she's that content on saving Maddie. Then she finds out about the Bellamy situation, like, oh, Bellamy didn't die in Polis, even though you left him to kind of die there, like your betrayal. The fact of the matter is he's in the gorge, and the last time I heard he was there because she's talking about the fact they're talking about, oh yeah, Bellamy loved you. You were good for him and he was good for you. Because she starts bringing up all this stuff that Echo did. It's like, oh, don't act like you're innocent. You've got blood on your hands about the whole Mount Weather situation in season 3, but it's like, no, that wasn't just, it's kind of messed up to kind of put, it's just because like I think on some level you could be like, well, Clark's trying to like shift everything because it's like, oh, don't act like I'm a bad person for doing this. This is kind of all on you and stuff. It's like the fact of the matter is you were Juanita willing to do anything for, in Clark's case, Juanita to do anything to protect the people you loved, but your people, but now it's just, oh, I guess person, which even Maddie doesn't want this. And it's like, oh, she took the flame willingly, which is like, Matt is like, yeah, Clark knows. But Clark is like, the fact of the matter is, haven't all the commanders told you that love is weakness? And she's like, yeah, they have, except for one, Lexa. The fact of the matter is, like, she learned from Clark, love and caring about someone doesn't make you weak. And the fact is that in Clark's mind, it's like, I'm not going to have like someone trudge up stuff from the past, like be talking about a ghost, but it's like, no, she's not a ghost. She is here along with every other commander. Like they still live here. They still exist. Like, whatever you want to say, like their souls are still in there, which she should know. She literally ran into Lexa in the City of Light. Like Lexa helped her back in season 3 during that whole City of Light situation. But maybe she thought whatever was part of Lexa is like, oh, that's just programming. That's just like memories. There's no Lexa soul in there. But it's like, for her, it's like, the fact of the matter is the Mount Weather situation has always been Lexa's biggest regret, that she chose her people above helping you and Sky Crew. And it's like, she doesn't want you to literally make that same mistake. And you're making it right now because you will live with this regret forever. It will haunt you until the end, So she doesn't want that same thing for Clark, and neither does Maddie, Because for Clark, it's like, this is how we survive. But it's that back to that thing. then it has to be more than just surviving, because this is a mentality all of them have gained. Like it's in particular Clark as well as one crew, because they were in situations where they had to do anything to survive, like for so long, and we saw what that meant for one crew turning to cannibalism, and then what that meant for Clark to do whatever it takes to protect Maddie, because that was kind of the only person she had. But she ends up realizing it's like, Maddie, I thought I was protecting you, but no, you saved me. Because if it wasn't for her meeting Maddie, she would have given up. She never would have kept going. Maddie kept her going the entire time, And now Clark's trying to make things right, letting Maddie go, and it's like, okay, I'm going to help with the whole transport ship thing, because you have Shaw and Raven being captured, and McCurry's going to use him to wipe out the last of one crew, but it's like he knows the best way to do that is to torture Raven, now force Shaw to break. Which even Shaw's like, I need you to turn up my collar and kill me, because if we do this, he's like, I won't hurt one crew, but the fact of the matter is I won't let him torture you either. So it's like, this is the only option to prevent him from getting what he wants. So Echo and Maddie leave, and then the whole situation with Octavia, she's about to go up and go after one of her people, but Bellamy grabs her and pulls her down, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, why do you even care? Don't you want me dead anyway? He's like, yes. And you see it in her eyes. It breaks her heart, because it's like the one person who used to love her so much, has such contempt for her now. But the fact of the matter is, Indra was willing to sacrifice herself to give them the time to run away. But Octavia's like, no, let it be me. I was like, what? I was like, no way. I was like, are they about to do it now? Are they literally about to kill Octavia? Because Octavia was about to go out. She literally went out there because she wanted to make sure that Indra lived, and that she's like, my brother, my responsibility. And it's like, dude, Bellamy couldn't really say anything because he has such mixed emotions right now. And it's like, Octavia knew she could never fix what she did with one crew, but at least she can make sure that Indra, Gaia, and Bellamy potentially got out of her lives. So she draws their attention. I was like, dude, this is it. This is it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, please. I actually was like, don't kill Octavia. Please don't kill Octavia. Luckily, Maddie and everyone else showed up in time. Murphy with that damn gun again. I love it. And it's like, wait, you didn't fix it. And Moira's like, yeah, I didn't fix it. And it's just kind of like, poor Murphy, he never got a chance. I mean, he shot it off once, but he never got to fully utilize it. And they had to leave it behind while it exploded. So all of them managed to escape. And he's just like, yeah. I'm like, everyone's reunited. Bellamy's there with Echo again. Now they're following Maddie, getting back to the camp. It's definitely going to be interesting going back. I mean, all of them are going to follow Maddie, and it looks like Octavia is not going to bother doing that. I think this whole Blood Reina thing is completely over. But then that becomes a question, once again, I brought up, I kind of get the inkling they're going to make it so that Abby kills her in, the season finale. But I don't know. That's the crazy thing about this. Who you don't know who's going to survive this. Even Clark's like, you will see me again. It's like, you might be the commander, but I'm the commander of death. And if I say we'll meet again, we'll meet again. And it's like, I don't know. Even I feel like I don't even know if Clark will survive this. I'd assume, but man, who knows? I'm not sure. I wasn't sure Bellamy was going to survive this. I wasn't sure Octavia, Indra, or Gaia, but it's like, maybe. Who knows? Where do we go from here is the biggest question. How this will all end, I have no idea. Will there be some kind of peace going forward? Will this be a full-on assault because they'll have a commander now by leading them? That this will be different? I don't know. Will Clark be able to stop the transport in time? Will it end with her sacrificing herself? I have no idea. I'm so excited to see how this wraps up in the season finale. Especially with all the deception and betrayal that took part this season. How do you move past all that? What they've all done, what Kane's done, what Dioza's done, what Clark has done. Like I said, everyone has played a little part in this, and it's how do you move forward from this? There's always going to be a little contention amongst everyone, even the whole Blood Reina situation. There'll always be contention because it's oh, you got so many of our people killed, you forced us into this situation. That's why I'm I have no idea how this is going to play out. I don't think there's just going to be a happy ending for this. Maybe there is. I just don't get that feeling. But ultimately, we'll kind of have to wait and see. And now moving on to this week's episode of The Outpost. A lot of interesting things went down this episode. So let's break things down. First of all, we have like, Talon and Garrett kind of doing the flirtatious training that they're doing. We kind of learn some interesting things. It seems like everything Talon does, it seems like she self-taught herself. I mean, she talks about the fact that she was always kind of a little faster and a little stronger than most people would kind of expect her to be. But it just seems like she's very good at anticipating her opponent's move. Maybe it's just something, maybe Black Bloods are just naturally like a little superhuman in some areas. But maybe it's also that thing that's inside of her that passed from her mom that lets her, I assume that's what lets you control the Lakiri, because that's what glows when you activate the power. But nevertheless, I wonder what that thing is exactly. I wonder, is that the soul of their commander? Is that like, I mean, probably no one really knows that's how that operates. So maybe that's why they serve him, because like, I mean, I'm skipping around, but later on it doesn't listen to her because like, that doesn't glow. It glowing means that the power is really kicking in. So I'm like, that must be like Gezekhan Khan. What was his name? It's something like that. Is their commander that they follow, the reason why they listen to the Black Blood. So I'm wondering like if that's the reason. Like, well, that's kind of like his essence, his soul. It kind of passes from one Black Blood to the next, because it's not just Black Bloods in general that can control only one specific one. Nevertheless, the point is like she picks up all these different skills from all the different people she's seen fight, all the different opponents she's come across. So she's picked skills up and kind of added to her repertoire. So she's kind of got like, want to go all weebish about it. She kind of has, I think, a shotgun gun type of situation going on. Like once she sees something, she can like copy it. Maybe not the first time, but seeing something enough, she can kind of get used to it. So then this does kind of bring about the whole like Gwen kind of getting a little jealous. It's like, yeah, nothing, don't confuse what's happening between you and Garrett with what's happening between me and him. It's like, you are just kind of an occupational interest of his. Like when she's like, I'm not coming between you and Garrett. And she's like, of course not. Because it's like, Gwen's almost like high and mighty about it. Of course not. You can never compare to the love that me and Garrett have, type of thing. But you can tell that she is a little jealous, and you can tell Talon's picking up on it too. But they still do kind of forge their friendship in the sense of like hustling people, playing Ator, the card game, which we already know like Talon is very good at hustling people. We kind of saw a little bit of that in the first episode. So, but her and Gwen are having a fun time. Poor Jonzo is kind of stuck handling things. It's kind of, you left me high and dry. I think it's that irks his nerve, but I think it also bothered him too, because it's like, oh, her hanging with Gwen. I think this was my initial thing. Like I didn't think about the fact is, oh, the workload is why you're kind of irked. But it's also because I thought like, oh, because now she's like, in your mind, she's kind of like every other girl. In his mind, like, Talon is very special. She's not like any other girl. Maybe that made him think like, oh, she kind of acted like, I don't know. But it seems like it is more so like the work thing. But her and Gwen partying it up and everything, kind of rush off the people they're playing with after the guys are like, yeah, I know you're cheating. You're hustling us, so. Gwen ditches her security. Her and Talon kind of go back to her place and pass out. Garrett does not appreciate that, though. Because it's interesting, because even Withers is himself, he's investigating this whole, like, he's still wondering about this whole, like, Gwen situation, I find so fascinating. I mean, it's like Garrett said, it's like once there's a puzzle in front of him, a riddle, will not stop until he figures it out. And it's like she's a conundrum he can't understand. Calcazar is this traitor, and his daughter is just some girl. So why is it that he listens to her? Because he was talking to Eleanor, which apparently they're a thing. I don't know if it's like a serious thing or whether it's just kind of like a casual thing. But nevertheless, it's kind of like, apparently he was a royal guard, and then it's just kind of like, oh yeah, his wife apparently hung herself because she couldn't deal with the shame. I don't think that's true. That's him probably, and most likely, lying. Like I said, I would assume that, like I said, Calcazar, it has to be what I'm guessing it is, that Calcazar is like, yeah, he is the royal guard, but he was ordered to look after Gwen, that everything isn't what the public thinks it is, that, oh, he betrayed everyone. That was the only way he could make it seem like, that was probably the only way he could make sure that Gwen survived, because that was probably, he followed his king's order. So, like, he has to follow the chain of authority, and, like, she has authority over him, her being, a princess and stuff like that, her being of royal blood. Obviously, that's the thing. Which complicates things too on many different levels, because Garrett is kind of pissed at her acting the way she is, because Gwen in particular, because it's like the men who are good men are getting punished because of what you're doing, like you going off on your own. Like obviously she's a little pissed at Garrett because of the way it's like, oh, like I was fine with Talon, she would have protected me. Like, obviously, she laid you out and everything. But Talon just think of it's like, oh, you're so in love with her. I get it, because Jonzo's like, oh, they love each other so much. And it's like, I'm not trying to get in the middle of that. And she's like, I get it. You're trying to protect her because you love her so much. It's like your sworn duty and stuff like that. But it's because Talon doesn't know the importance. And Garrett wants to say it, but it's like, it's complicated. But that is his reason why, because the future of this world literally resides on her. But Gwen, it's like, she doesn't really care too much about all that. She wants to have fun. Like I said, like Talon's, like outside this whole situation, Talon's most likely the only friend she has in this whole situation. So that's why it's kind of like, I actually have a friend now, She just wants to live, it's like, why should I kind of have to sacrifice my entire life for this purpose and this cause? But that's the point what Garrett and them are trying to get across. It's like, the fact of the matter is, you are so important. I know it's a heavy burden to bear, but the fact of the matter is, it is your burden. You have to bear it if we want to make this all possible. Everything they're doing, everything they orchestrate isn't just about the Grayskins. It's about mounting a rebellion and taking down the Prime Order is what this is all about. So much rides on her. And obviously Garrett's in a complicated situation because like he knows nothing between him and Gwen could ever happen, even though he loves her. But there's a little, like I said, maybe there's a little situation of like he finds Talon interesting because she is so mysterious about like the fact that she's such a skilled fighter, while at the same time she is such an interesting person in general too. So he does find some attraction there, and he's trying his best to balance everything. It's like he got mad at her and everything, and he's like, oh, but we'll still be up, for training at the gate, right? But it's like, she's like, oh, you're so presumptuous, to think that I'll come at your beck and call and stuff like that. Which I love that whole conversation from Jonzo being like, oh, like I can't compare, guys like me can't compare to guys like Garrett who are handsome, who are muscular, who even have the uniform. But for Talon, it's like, yeah, guys like that are kind of my enemy. And that guys who are handsome are presumptuous. And he's got like, oh, so that means there's a chance for guys like me. He's getting all happy and everything. And immediately a bird shits on him. And it's like, really? Now of all times? It's like it picked the perfect moment to shit on you. It's just kind of like, oh, just when you're about to raise yourself up, it has to bring you down a little bit. He's like, oh, like you want a man who can, make you laugh a little bit. And she's like, maybe so. And it's like, oh, something's happening. But then it clicks in his head like, oh, the bird shit. It kind of makes him figure that whole thing out, which is so interesting. Makes you wonder where that's going to go. Like, I think it's leaning towards more so maybe the Jonzo and Talon thing, but then there's also the whole Garrett and Talon thing. They kind of have their own little flirtatious thing. It's like, it's a little flirting, sure, but I don't think anyone really wants to admit that there is something kind of happening there. Like I said, they both have a lot of secrets they're kind of keeping from each other. So we find out that Bafnaro left another body at Talon's under her window, which is pissing Withers off more and more. He's like, you gotta go. But she's like, how do you know for sure? There's no guarantee that me leaving is gonna fix the situation. He's like, I get the feeling it will, which I don't know, maybe it would. Before now, it would have, maybe, because it would have still followed her, because the blacksmith kind of brought up something interesting. Basically, it turns out the Lakiri, I assume, are actually originally from this world, potentially, but the Black Blood sealed them away in the plane of Shadow and Ash. So it's kind of like, I guess because they were too dangerous to be kept here. But it also seems like Bafnaro is taunting you and messing with you a little bit because he doesn't want to kill you yet, because he hopes that you will help him release the other Lakiri that are there. Which I was curious about that before, like how many are on the other side? Like, could she honestly lead an army of Lakiri, or is it only like one at a time she'd be able to control? That's the question. But the moment he finds out you won't help him, he will kill you. Which we do see him at the end of the episode. He stabs her because he doesn't want to go back. She can't control him. And so I'm chalking that up to the fact is that he did that means he's cut ties with her. It's like, I don't need you anymore. And so he's walking away. So now, even if Talon left, that thing won't. It won't leave. It'll keep killing and doing whatever the hell it wants to because it can now. It doesn't have to worry about Talon. It's like, oh, you can't send me back. You don't command me. You don't control me. But the fact is, you won't open a gate for my other brethren. So screw you then, So she's also still looking for the man with the mark, which it's like Jonzo puts it out there to her. It's like, if you haven't found him, it's either because he's left already or he's covering up his tattoo. And it's like, well, who's someone you keep running into that knows a lot about all this. But I guess you wouldn't jump to that conclusion either, because it's like, why would you think the person that wanted you dead so long ago, helped kill all your people, would help you all of a sudden? And it's like, well, he tried to all those years ago. But in her mind, I think she just thinks that, like, maybe she's misremembering it or something, or maybe she just thinks, like, maybe she scared him away. The reason why he left. It's like, I don't know. It really pops up in her head that he missed on purpose. Like I said, she was young. Those were years. That was 13 years ago. So for her, it's like, no, she's so consumed by hate, she doesn't probably even want to concede that thought. Probably part of the reason why the blacksmith isn't telling her who he really is, just because he knows the moment she knows, she's going to kill you. Which, you know, she has a right to, considering what you did, massacring all her people, making her the only person left alive. So there's that little snafu. On the other side of things, you have Eleanor getting Withers to arrest the worm, which I love that whole situation. It's like, I mean, can't really arrest him because he's sleeping with some old lady, because like he's sleeping with this lady who's a widow or whatever. Kind of got a similar situation to Eleanor and Withers' whole little deal. But then it's like, oh, he killed Bill, cut off his head and sent it to me. He's like, what? Why didn't you tell me that? Obviously, it's because Eleanor was trying to use this situation to her advantage, but she knows she can use you to her advantage. Be like, oh yeah, like you have the authority to kind of force him in a situation where he can give me information I need. Worm gets arrested and Eleanor starts interrogating him, but doesn't get the information she wants. Jonzo, being who he is, does figure it out. It's like, oh, I know how he's communicating. He's using birds. That's how he gets to his Calypsum supplier. Because at the same time, you had the whole situation of like him trying to make a deal with her, and she was about to give him, but then she starts being like, no, Withers, I need you to interrogate him more, because he's not willing to admit about what he did. But then Jonzo shows up and it's like, wait, oh, I figured it out, Mom. She said, oh, look at my baby boy. Also funny because it's like she's showing all this concern and everything. One of my other favorite lines for the episode was like, he's like, oh, my condolences for Bill. Withers said that, and Eleanor's like, nah, it's okay. He wasn't even one of my favorites. And she's acting so distraught. Oh, he killed my Bill. But it's like, oh, Jonzo, look at you. You're my favorite. You did such an amazing job. But Jonzo was like, don't kill him, Mom. Like, if it happens, it's going to be my fault, because I'm the one that helped to facilitate his death by figuring this out. But they execute him anyway, because Withers is willing to do whatever he can for Eleanor, which is like, oh, poor the worm. He was kind of a scummy dude. I even love that he was apologetic too. He's like, wait a minute, Bill was your son? He's like, he had no idea. He was just, oh, I thought Bill was just some random dude you hired to follow me, or he's just one of your goons. I had no idea he was your son. It's like, she didn't care too much about him anyway. I love that she keeps saying, my son Bill. It's like, you're a terrible mom. You don't care about him. You never did. You only care about your children when they're benefiting you, which is kind of so depressing and sad. But now she's gotten what she wanted. I'm curious to see what this does going forward with Jonzo, because now he's got someone's death on his conscience. Talon had 2 deaths on her conscience because of the people that Kiri killed, because of her kind of going out and like not controlling it. Garrett's trying to deal with this whole situation, obviously preparing for this rebellion. Rebellion. Then at the same time, also trying to figure out giving bodies to Jonzo to figure out these plagueling situation, which even then, it's like he was beginning to explain it, but Garrett kind of cut him off. Even Jonzo doesn't really have all the answers yet. Then Garrett says the interesting thing of like, I need you to like tell me whatever Talon says. I guess it's because maybe he's trying to get a feel of what Talon thinks of him potentially, or where they really stand. But maybe, because he doesn't want her to hate him, because it's like, I want our relationship to be good. I know it's weird, and it's like, I'm very aggressive. So like I said, he's caught between like, hey, this is a person that I'm fond of, like potentially like, but then there's a situation like, there's a woman I love, but I know I can never be with her because of her whole situation, caught between all of that and his duty. So at the same time, also having his dad trying to figure this whole situation out. I am curious though, because the worm was going to give a name up at the end before he was executed, but it was too late. They know how to get to the supplier, but it's like, who's the one supplying all the Calypsum? I wonder if it ended up going to be Dread, because he was like, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. So I feel like out of anyone, it had to be like someone from like the Prime Order, maybe someone from the Bones group, but I feel like more so than anything, it might be like Dread of the Prime Order. I feel like it had to be someone of top notoriety for him to say on the line of like, oh yeah, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, son. which we didn't cut to it all this episode because I guess obviously it would take a while, but don't forget the bones are on their way to find Talon, so that's not good. And I'm curious who's going to find her down there, not unless she crawls her way out, but not unless, the blacksmith is keeping an eye on her, but no one really knows where she is. Withers is on the lookout for her because it's like, oh, you're supposed to leave because I told you to leave town, but it's like, she hasn't. He was looking for her until this whole, worm situation was kind of escalating to what it did, but I'm sure he's back on a search now that the worm is dead, so. And I'm curious to see what that whole Eleanor, Calypso storyline ends up turning into. I was wondering if that was just going to be a backstory thing, which it kind of does. But it seems like the fact is that it's becoming such an important part of the episodes makes you go, okay, so that's going to turn into some story relevant stuff. What exactly? I don't know. I'm very interested to find out, though. We'll just have to wait and see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.